Hello, everyone. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting. It would really help the channel out quite a bit. Thank you very much.
Mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, Barton Drake speaking. For tonight's drama, I've selected case history number 117 from my book, Mystery is My Hobby. I call it, Murder Can Sometimes Be Pleasant.
I got you that time, Althea.
Yeah, 15 love. Oh, darn it, I missed it.
Love 30. Now, good serve. Good serve. Here it is. Right second.
Oh, no.
Love 40. Still your serve. No, that's ball. Try again, now. Outside. Outside, that's game and set.
Love set.
Well, you want to play another, Althea?
Let's get over here and sit down.
All right, let's.
If you play like that tomorrow, you're bound to win the championship.
Sure, I'll win it.
Kiss me, John.
Oh, you stretch up.
And after you win the championship, our problems will all be settled. Gramps will let me marry you.
Well,
Kiss me again, John. Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you.
You're a sweet little kid, Althea.
I'm not a kid. I'm 19.
And I'm 42.
The best part of it. You're mature. You've seen life. And you've taught me what love really means. Oh, John. You just gotta win that championship.
Althea,
Yes, Johnny.
even if I do win the matches, money is still going to be a problem.
It was a $2,000 prize money.
Yeah, $2,000 won't half pay you back the money you've given me in the past 6 months.
You can forget that, Johnny. Nobody knows.
But there are other debts, other women who...
Johnny, what are you getting at?
Althea, I can't marry you.
Why? What do you...
I'm going to marry Irene.
Irene?
Yes, your mother.
Johnny, you can't do that. Why,
Of course, honey, of course, you're the one I love. But Irene has the money. All the money that was left her from her poor husband, and I simply have to have money out there, lots of it.
You can't. You can't. What'll become of me?
Oh, it doesn't have to make any difference with us, darling. Sure, I'm marrying your mother, but only for her money. I'll be around, darling.
Oh, down, dirty, stinking pig.
Althea, you don't have to take it this way.
You think you're going to marry my mother? Oh, no, you're not. Before I let you do that, I'll kill you. You understand? I'll kill you.
Barton Drake stretched his long legs out until they pressed against the back of the front seat of a luxurious sedan that was to drive him from the Miami airport to the sumptuous El Boca Hotel. Comfortably he settled himself, lazily scratching his broad back against the soft velour upholstery. He heaved a comfortable sigh and turned to Inspector Noah Danton.
Well, Inspector,
What is this all about? I thought you came down here to go fishing.
I did.
Then why this mad wire to me? Certainly you don't need my help to pull those minnows you catch up with here.
The police force down here got stuck with the case, and they asked me to get them out of a jam.
And now, you're stuck with it? Is that it?
I'm in the jam right with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to get me out.
No, Inspector. I think I'd rather go fishing. Now, here the sailfish are running, and I...
Mark,
What?
would you say if you found a man lying in a lot with every bone in his body broken?
Well, I'd say that he'd jumped off a 15 or 20-story building.
But he was over 175 feet away from the building. Even I know a guy can't jump that far.
Well, he could have jumped from an airplane.
This guy didn't jump from anywhere. He was tied hand and foot. He was pushed.
Well, somebody could have thrown him from an airplane.
Mm-hmm. This guy was seen going up to his room the night he was killed.
Huh?
After he'd said goodnight to everybody. He was well known.
so well known that he couldn't have come down and gone out of the hotel without being recognized.
Well, from your description, I'd say he did come down anyway.
Sure. But how? How was it done?
That, my dear Inspector, is more than a $64 question.
Can you help me, Bart?
Yes, Inspector, I'm afraid you're too persuasive.
Ah, good, Bart, good.
Where did all this happen?
In the parking lot of the El Boca Hotel?
The El Boca?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what we're saying?
Yep.
How high is the El Boca?
18 stories.
But
that won't do you any good. He couldn't have fallen from there.
Who was this gentleman with the 7-league boot?
Johnny Murray.
The tennis player?
Yep.
Well, he was all set to be the next champion.
Yep, that's the guy. Well, here we are, the El Boca.
Well, Inspector, when you go fishing, you go in style, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Why not? I save up all year for this. Come on, let's get out.
Right with you, Inspector.
Hey, Mark, wait out!
What? Why,
Well, I must... What was that?
Looks like a piece of cornice fell from off the hotel.
Brother, if we hadn't got out when we did, we'd be deader than a couple of mackerels.
You know, it occurs to me, Inspector, that somebody doesn't like me. Or maybe it's you.
And now, back to Glenn Langan for the second act of...
Mystery is my hobby.
This is where the thing fell from, Bart.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about this Johnny Murray. All you know, Inspector.
When the night he was killed, he had just announced his engagement to a Mrs. Irene Van Norton.
A widow?
Yeah, 4 times. Every one of the guys left her a wad of dough.
What was she going to marry this Murray for? He didn't have any money, did he?
Puppy love, I guess. She's almost in her second childhood.
Uh-huh.
Now, don't ask me what he was going to marry her for, you know.
Oh, nice chap, huh?
A bum. I'd like to get the guy who threw those bricks down here.
Nobody threw that piece of cornice, Inspector. It was an accident.
You mean it fell off there all by itself, huh? Nobody laid a hand on it?
Well, there certainly wasn't anybody attached to it when it hit the car.
That isn't funny.
I'm sorry.
Well, you know what you want to see?
Mm-hmm.
Well, come on, Bart. Let's go. There isn't anything up here but a lot of ventilators, a couple of smokestacks, and a flagpole.
All right, Inspector. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Tell me, does Mrs. Van Norton live here at the hotel?
Sure, she and her 19-year-old daughter, Alfie, and her father. Old General Albert Dexter, U.S. Army retired. They got a suite.
Not General Dexter.
That's what I said. You know him?
Well, I certainly know of him. He's one of the greatest artillery experts this country ever developed. Fought all through this last war and the first one. So the old boy's retired, huh?
Yeah. Been living here all winter.
Tell me, Inspector, were there any objections from the family regarding this marriage of Mrs. Van Norton?
Oh, I'll say there were. Both the general and the daughter were mad as hell.
Very interesting.
Oh.
Ring for the elevator, will you, Inspector?
Sure. Somebody else was mad as hell, too.
Yeah? Who's that?
Bob Hilton. John Murray's roommate.
Who's Bob Hilton?
Another tennis player.
Oh, yes, sure. Well, listen, he's almost as good as Murray. What floor is this Bob Hilton's room, Inspector?
Fifth.
Fifth floor, please.
Huh? Hey, wait a minute. What are you...
to pay a little call on Mr. Hilton, Inspector?
Yeah.
Which is his room?
518.
Oh, yeah. Here we are. Well, you try it this time, Inspector.
Okay. Huh. Maybe he's out.
No, somebody's home.
Yes? Oh, it's you, Inspector.
Yeah, my friend, Martin Drake.
What do you want this time? I've already told you all I know about Johnny.
We want to come in and talk.
Well,
Come on in, Bart.
Right, you are.
And close the door. You.
All right, if you insist.
Hilton, I was on the plane and didn't get the news. Who won the tennis championship this afternoon?
I did. Why?
I see. Rather convenient for your roommate to get himself killed, wasn't it?
Now, see here. I'd have won it anyway.
That's something we will never know, will we?
Look, if you came here to accuse
I'm
me
not
of...
accusing you of anything, Mr. Hilton. I simply... Just a minute, Mr. Hilton.
Hey, you. Stay away from that door.
You stay where you are, Hilton.
Might as well come out and join the party, young lady.
Hey, that's Althea Van Norton. What's she doing here?
Can't you see, Inspector?
Well,
she's rearranging her hair.
don't let him scare you, Althea. They're just a couple of cops.
You blush very prettily, Miss Van Norton.
I have just asked Althea to marry me, and she accepted. I was giving her a kiss when you knocked on the door. Anything mysterious about that?
Only that it's a bit strange that Althea would be seriously concerned with affairs of the heart so soon after her mother's fiancé's demise.
Our affair, Mr. Drake, is none of your darn business.
Bobby, darling.
Irene.
Oh, good heavens, look at all the people.
Mrs. Van Norton, this is Barton Drake.
How do you do?
Barton Drake. Remarkable physique.
Mother, haven't you any sense of decency?
Oh, Althea, mind your own business.
Walking in on Bob here without even knocking. What in the world will people think?
I don't care what they think. Bob and I are going to be married.
What did you say?
I said Bob and I are going to be married. Oh, think of that, Althea. Your own dear mother, married to the world's champion tennis player.
Johnny. You allowed Johnny to announce your engagement.
You're so young, my child. Engagements don't mean anything.
Bobby here just asked me to marry him.
Did he? Oh, the dear boy. Well, you can't have him now, you know. Oh, I found out last night that he dances the most wonderful rumba.
Mother, he was...
Oh, now don't start getting difficult, Althea.
You never intended to marry Johnny, did you?
Of course not, silly child.
Oh, Mother, what you done? What you done?
And now, back to Glenn Langan for the third act of Mystery is My Hobby.
Thank you for bringing me up to my room, Mr. Drake.
That's perfectly all right, Miss Van Norton. The Inspector and I wish to see your grandfather anyway.
Poor Gramp. This thing is hitting pretty hard, you know.
Your mother's actions can't be helping the old gentleman's peace of mind.
Let's stop here a minute before we go in.
Oh, yes, certainly.
You, live on the top floor, don't you?
Yes? Mr. Drake, I want to explain why I was in Bob Hilton's room.
You don't have to, unless you care to.
But I do. I allowed Bob to make love to me, to kiss me, because I thought...
Yes?
I thought maybe I could get him to admit that he killed Johnny.
Oh. You think that Bob killed Johnny Murray?
I'm sure of it.
Why?
For one thing, so he could win the tennis match. Now it's what we've just seen because he was jealous of Johnny and Mother.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's plenty of motive there. Miss Van Norton, just why are you so interested in apprehending Murray's murderer?
Because I love Johnny very deep.
Brother, has this turned into a family affair?
Inspector.
I'll admit now it's all very disgusting. Well, shall we go in and see Grandfather?
Yes, let's.
Who's that? Oh, it's you, Althea, dear.
Yes, Gran.
I missed you, honey. Who's that you've got with you?
Well, Grandfather, this is Mr. Barton Drake and Inspector Danton of the police.
How are you, General?
Police. Oh, I am.
Now, look here. Don't you start putting my granddaughter through any third degree. She had absolutely nothing to do with the murder.
Mr. Drake and the Inspector have been very kind.
Better be, by trumpet.
Your granddaughter's helped us a lot, General Dexter.
Fine girl. Only one in my family is any good. She's my girl. Mother isn't worth the sand you'd stuff in a rat hole, by trumpet.
Grand.
Well, I mean it. You a military man, Drake?
4 years in the cavalry.
A dirty neck, eh?
That's right.
Dang good outfit.
Thank you.
Changed them into tanks this last war. You first made the landing at Okinawa. No, with a lot of help, of course. A couple of Marines and the whole dang Navy. First thing you're passing was a horse trooper, sir.
Yes, sir. I've heard a great deal of you, General. I understand you're an artillery expert.
Know all about it. Studied the subject from the time David threw a stone at Goliath with a slingshot down to the time we threw an atom at Bikini. All artillery, you know. The propulsion of missiles. But getting too dang modern for me, though. Had to retire, by trumpet.
Well, General, this is very interesting, but really, we're here for an entirely...
No, you're trying to find out who murdered John Murray.
That's right, sir.
I find out myself. I pin a medal on the man who did it. Give him a citation.
I take it you didn't care much for the gentleman?
He was worse than a cashiered second lieutenant, sir. The scum of the earth. Elsie, darling, would you mind leaving the room? What I have to say about Murray isn't fit for your ears.
Of course, Grandfather. Don't be hard on Gramps now, Mr. Drake.
It does me, Elsa. You and your granddaughter are nice people, General Dexter. However, I can't say the same of your daughter, Mrs. Van Norton.
Just like a mother. Worse. Lack of discipline when she was young. I'm an army man. Moved around a lot. Then there were a couple of wars that interfered with my bringing her up properly.
I see. You were violently opposed to your daughter's marriage to John Murray, weren't you?
Opposed? I forbade it.
I see. Tell me, General, have you any theory as to who could have committed this murder?
Ask him if he's got any theories as to how it was committed.
Oh, I already know how, Inspector. Now I want to know who. How about my question, General?
Well, sir, I was probably the last man to see him alive.
You were the last man to see him alive?
Yes, sir. He came up here right after announcing his engagement to my daughter. We had a pretty violent scene. He'd come into my apartment. And if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to prevent your marriage to Irene.
Why? What have you got against me?
Everything. I've had private detectives on your trail.
Yes, I know. I've had them in for drinks.
For the past 6 months, you've been living on money given to you by my daughter. Why, any man who takes money from a woman is no more than
Take it easy, Gramps. Take it easy. I've been living up there, too.
That's a lie, sir. There's one thing that I absolutely will not let you touch, and that's my granddaughter. She's the only clean one in the family.
She's mad about me. I've had a hard time making up my mind which one I wanted. However, your daughter's money was the deciding factor, so she's the one I'm going to marry. I'll outlive her anyway. She'll drink herself to death.
Why, you low-down, dirty heel?
Sure, I know I'm a heel. And your daughter's a heel, and your granddaughter's a...
Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Drake, is just about the last time I ever saw John Murray alive.
Thank you, General, for telling me this. I'm sorry I had to question you, but...
Oh, that's all right. I'm a military man, sir. I like direct action by trumpet.
Well, General, it's been very nice meeting you.
Glad to know you, too, sir.
You know, with your knowledge of artillery, you ought to write a book.
I have, sir.
You have? Good. If we ever have another war, God forbid, this country's going to need it, by trumpet. Come on, Inspector.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Good night. Hey, Bart, what was that crack you made about knowing how the murder was done?
I do, Inspector.
Well, come on, give.
No, I don't think I'll ever tell.
Huh? Now, look, Bart, you can't...
If I ever heard of a justifiable homicide, this is it.
Now, look, Bart, there's a law, and it says...
John Murray was a skunk, not fit to live with human beings. No? I guess you're going to have to figure this one out for yourself, Inspector.
Now, look here, Bart. The law's the law. We've got to have it, and the law says that if a man commits a murder, he has to be punished. No man has the right to take the law into his own hands, whether or not the homicide is justifiable or not. It isn't up to me to decide, or you. We've got the courts for that purpose. Now, if you know anything about this murder, you've got to tell it. Otherwise, it makes you an accessory after the fact. You know that as well as I do.
Yes, Inspector, I know. I know. All right. Get your crowd together and bring them up to the roof. We might as well get this thing over with.
That crowd?
Yes, Alfie and Mrs. Van Norton, Bob Hilton.
Well, how about old Grandpa, the general? Want him to come up, too?
No, that won't be necessary. I'll let you tell him about it after we pick up the guilty party.
Yeah.
And now, back to our star, Glenn Langan, for the conclusion of...
Mystery is my hobby.
Now, gentlemen, I told you I know how the murder was committed, and I do.
Now, don't tell me John was thrown from this roof. It isn't possible. Not in having land where he did.
No, but it is possible, Mr. Hilton.
And that's just what happened.
Oh, dear. I would like to be the man who was strong enough to do that.
You have, Mrs. Van Norton.
Oh, good heavens, really?
Do we have to go through with it? I feel rather faint.
I'm afraid you'll have to hold on just a bit longer, Miss Althea. Inspector, you'll remember that iron ring that was in that piece of cornice that fell on the car.
Sure, I remember. It had a short piece of rope tied to it.
Exactly. Now let's take a look at this flagpole. It's a good, springy piece of hickory. You see, Inspector?
Yeah. And look, Bart. There's another piece of rope hanging loose from the top.
Right you are. And here's what happened, at least the way I see it. Our executioner first knocked out John Murray, then tied and gagged him and brought him up to the roof.
Oh, I hope he was still unconscious when he fell.
Well, perhaps he was. Then our executioner bent this flagpole back, way back, and tied the top of it to that ring in the cornice.
How could anybody do that?
You'll notice that this is a double rope, Mr. Hilton. By inserting an iron bar between the ropes and twisting them, it could be done very easily. Now, with the flagpole bent down, almost parallel with the roof, our executioner placed Murray's body on it, near the top, and probably tying on it some kind of a light cord that was just strong enough to hold the body in place. He then takes an axe, and he cuts the twisted rope. The flagpole springs back into an upright position and catapults the body out into space to where it lands 175 feet away from the base of the building.
Oh.
Hey, Bart. How about that cornice? What made it land on us?
That was purely an accident, Inspector, as I told you before. The jerk of the rope, when it was cut, must have loosened it. And then Mr. Newton's law of gravity did the rest.
That's a very pretty story, Mr. Drake, but you still haven't told us who did this parlor magic.
You did, Mrs. Van Norton. You and Bob Hilton. Yes, and John Murray himself.
Mother.
Oh, now look here, Drake.
You did it by breaking a gallant old man's heart. You and your escapades, Mrs. Van Norton, your love affairs, first with Johnny Murray and then with Bob Hilton here. Your silly, vicious lack of decency. The guilt is yours for driving a proud, honorable old man to the point where he couldn't live with himself and admit that you were his own daughter.
Mr. Drake, you're getting insulted.
You'll hear me out. And then when John Murray threatened to sully the one thing General Dexter had left, the one thing he loved more dearly than life itself, his granddaughter, your daughter, Mrs. Van Norton, the general decided to take matters in his own hands. He was a military man. He liked direct action, so this is the final result. And I hope you're all smugly and completely satisfied with what you've done. Come on, Althea. Inspector, let's go.
Yeah. Just a minute, Mr. Drake.
General, what are you doing here? I planned to spare you this.
It's all right, Elsie, honey. It had to come out. I knew it. Very good reasoning, Mr. Drake. Excellent.
I'm very sorry, General.
See that Althea gets away from her mother. Will you, Mr. Drake? I won't be able to myself.
Here. Let me take a look, my dear. I'm sorry, Althea. Somebody has, on the law, has wiped that slate. No. You should be glad, my dear, the old general would like it that way. He liked direct action by trumpet.
Well, I'll be darned if I can see how you figure this out. Still, they on me.
The catapult, Inspector, was a forerunner of Marseille, was General Dexter's hobby.
Well, artillery. He was an expert.
Yes, Inspector, just as with me, mystery is my hobby.